And that's what led me to get into the more self-development space around the real estate work. I spend my off hours coaching people and helping them figure out how to change their life to be somebody who could put some money away, to get in shape, to get mentally okay with with their goals, to figure out what they want out of life, and then we sort of build a real estate plan around it later. So I could be working with people for years
Right.
before before they ever need to be introduced to somebody to buy a home, whether they're in my area with me or whether they're in another area and I have to refer them to somebody else. It's not just hurry, 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 get it done. It's start a relationship now so that in 20 years we're both still talking, we're both still working
Wow.
together, and you're getting everything you want out of life simply because you put in the
Just welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we delve into the power of living your best audacious life ever. Thank you for tuning in and taking the time to join us on this exciting journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Now, just as building a strong foundation in real estate creates investing time and effort in establishing meaningful connections can lead to a long-term wave of success and fulfillment. David Dippong is a dedicated real estate professional who has a passion for helping individuals achieve their goals of home ownership and financial security. With several years of experience in the industry, David is known for his commitment to building generational wealth. Plus, as I mentioned before, the importance of creating lasting relationships, and he does so with his clients. Now, in this episode, David shares valuable insights on the importance of long-term planning and developing a solid real estate strategy to secure a brighter future, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones as well. So we've got you all set. Now it's time to turn our sights over to Mr. David Dippong. Hey, David, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to do this. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I always love to talk, to spread the news, spread the information, help some more people.
Sure, no, absolutely, and the idea of helping people is a wonderful thing, especially when we're able to help them elevate from where they are to a better place, right? And I think that really, I think inside that really is a desire and a goal for a lot of people, where they want to elevate themselves and go to a better place. And obviously, with the work you do in the real estate space and helping individuals, build their wealth and help themselves and their families, I think it's a really good starting point. So maybe we can get you sort of just kind of briefly explain sort of the work that you do and how you're helping people to get that success they're looking for.
Well, that's a really great question. And what it comes down to is reaching people earlier. There's so much information out there now. We're living in an age where you can get any information you need, but a lot of people don't get the basic financial education, the basic long-term planning, they don't develop the basic habits needed to live a life that could be 100 years and to be able to live in financial safety and comfort to establish and build the life that they want.
Right.
Many people are just living by the seat of their pants. So a lot of what I do is reaching people earlier and helping them either develop a plan for real estate or just do personal development to become a person who is able to go after and achieve what they want to achieve out of life or what they think they want to achieve now, because that could
Mhm.
always change.
Got you. Got you. And so where you're at now, is that kind of where you started, where you've always been, or was there a bit of a process to you get to this point where you're helping people in this fashion?
Well, I went into real estate because you can help people live in comfort. They buy their home, it's part of the American dream, but also in Southern California where I work, it's one of the best ways to build wealth
Mm-hmm.
and one of the most effective ways to lower your cost of living long term. And through that, I started getting in touch with people because of our high prices that just couldn't do it. They just don't have
Right.
the financial capacity. And that's what led me to get into the more self development space around the real estate work. I spend my off hours coaching people and helping them figure out how to change their life to be somebody who could put some money away, to get in shape, to get mentally okay with with their goals, to figure out what they want out of life, and then we sort of build a real estate plan around it later. So I could be working with people for years
Right.
before before they ever need to be introduced to somebody to buy a home, whether they're in my area with me or whether they're in another area and I have to refer them to somebody else. It's not just hurry, 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 get it done. It's start a relationship now so that in 20 years we're both still talking, we're both still working
Wow.
together, and you're getting everything you want out of life simply because you put in the time.
And that is a very different type of, like, I mean, I just think of a typical relationship with, a real estate agent. It's like you meet, you're looking for a home, let's say you purchase a home, the transaction's done, and that's it. And they live in their home and you're off to the next client, so to speak. But to hear that the relationships can last as long as they do because of the other work that you're doing is really fascinating.
Historically, that was what the real estate agent did, but I call myself a real estate professional and an advisor
Okay.
because when somebody buys a home with me, it could take a few years of prep, and say they keep that home for 10 years. Every time you have a maintenance need, every time you need to refinance, every time you need anything, even though I'm
Mhm.
not going to make money, uh, you're supposed to come to me. I'm the expert that you hired when you bought the place for a reason. And I'll be the expert you hire when you have to sell the place to achieve whatever your next goal is. But quickly helping someone buy something and then disappearing for a decade until I meet it again
Right.
ultimately doesn't help anybody. And it
Wow.
doesn't educate them on how to use their property better. It doesn't help them invest in their property over the years. And it's largely why you see such a range in what professionals can charge. Because if somebody's just going to be with you for a month and leave,
Right.
maybe you don't pay them as much money. But if somebody wants to be an advisor for you long term, maybe you invest in the relationship with them and the money you spent is pennies on the dollar compared to the time, stress, money you save over that decade. So I believe in the
Mhm.
long term strategy and the relationships of this industry as opposed to the transactional basis
Right.
of it.
And yeah, and transaction I think is a perfect word, right? Because it's just for the longest time it's just been about that initial transaction, or maybe again the sale or the purchase, however, whatever happens in whatever order. But it's always been about that transaction. See you later, I'm off. Now, what I'm hearing from you clearly is that it's a much deeper dive. But the word that you use, and I think it's really powerful, is you're establishing a relationship that has some substance, not just based on that transaction.
Well, yeah, you have a lawyer, you have a doctor, you have all these people in your life long term to help you. You shouldn't trust your I mean, I don't believe you should trust your most important investments in life to somebody you just met. I think you start working with them, and if they keep doing a good job for you, you keep working with them. And through that relationship, every hyper successful person has a guy for everything because it gets them their time back. They make more money than they would have tried to do it themselves anyway.
Mhm.
And they just know, oh, I don't need to do that. Let me call my guy. He'll do
Right.
that. It's a
Right.
car guy, a real estate guy, a lawyer, anything that isn't your specific profession. You shouldn't be trying to DIY yourself unless it's a hobby.
Sure. Sure.
But it's not a
Sure.
great investment to just try some stuff. And also,
Yeah.
on the other hand, the sales industry hasn't always been favorably looked at. I believe if we really invest in our clients long term, there's a trust that you can build there, and suddenly now everything doesn't have to be as stressful for the people who are actually doing the home buying and selling.
Hmm. Can you perhaps maybe paint a picture and give me generate what a sort of typical, maybe typical is not the right word, but what a relationship would look like? So you meet a client, they want to, they in a couple years they want to purchase a home. What's happening with that client prior to and then afterwards? What does that look like?
It looks like, uh, first of all, you do a needs analysis. You sit
Okay.
down, you say, here's how much money you're making, Here's how much money you have saved. Here's what you expect to be making. You expect, a promotion. You expect to change jobs. Here's basically what you expect to have to buy that home. Then
Right.
we go and we look at the areas where that home budget would work. And we increase those obviously for a few years of inflation, a few years of appreciation.
Hmm.
And we say, okay, basically, if you want to buy in 2 years, 3 years, a year and a half, you're likely going to need this much to this much in funds. You'll be able to buy this in this city, this in this city, and this in this city.
Hmm.
Right now, why don't we figure out which one matches your long-term needs best? Are you looking for investment? Are you looking for commutability to work? We do all of that stuff up front so that when you are ready to pull the trigger, it's let's go out there, let's be aggressive, let's compete because there's so many more buyers and properties available. We already know what you want and we're able to get that done efficiently and
Right.
achieve your goals because we already did all the legwork
Up front.
previously.
Right.
And
Right.
then post, it's interest rate in the next 3 years. If interest rates come down markedly, it's like, hey, you know what, you should really be talking to the lender, see if you can refinance, lower your payment. Hey, you had a roof leak. Here are a couple guys that I've used for roof leaks in the past. Maybe you call them, see which one has availability in the next few weeks, because all of these companies, contractors, everyone has limited availability, so you have to be able to give your clients options and help them get the service they need. So a lot of it is just that basic follow up. And then, of course, if anybody else in their life, like your kid or your neighbor or your cousin, needs somebody and they just look and they see thousands of brokers or agents or people they could work with, it's about getting introduced to those people a few years or a few months as far in advance before their search starts,
Hmm.
so that you can properly prepare them
Right.
for the investment and the comfort and the financial commitment that a home is, because it's all of those things.
That's right. That's right. Dear, I got to tell you, when you think of sort of, what, the purchasing a home, the impact and the difference it can make on families, it's significant. Like in terms of just preparing them for the future, long term, building generational wealth, all of these sorts of things. Um, I'm imagining that feels pretty rewarding at times.
It does. It's a weird career because, well, you can look at the numbers and you can see, okay, based on our area, the average homeowner has 38 times the net worth of the average renter. And you can look at data, and data is data, but people are very emotional beings. So you
Right.
also have to look at it from that angle and say the comfort and help people find the comfort, the living situation that they want for the next 5 years. Because we won't actually see the results of all of my work and your work and our work for the next 5 years. But ultimately, year 5 to 10, 10 to 15, there won't have been a better investment you could have made in your family.
Right.
But you have to take the initial investment on faith, basically. You can see what happened over the last 30 years, which is good data. But you have to, until it actually happens for you, until you get to year 5, it
Yes.
is an investment. You're putting money in it, you're tweaking things that don't quite work for you, you're upgrading some things that you didn't think you would want, but you do, you're fixing a few maintenance issues. And ultimately, when you get to that 7 year period, it really feels great because your clients are like super psyched that they have this much money in the home and it's working out. But in year one, two, three, it's a little bit scary, which is why
Sure.
that you need somebody to advise you because you've never done this before, and
Hmm.
things you've never done for before can be scary.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, what led you down this path? Because it's a very unique one in terms of the type of work you do. Again, we talked about the typical real estate agent, which you're absolutely not. Yeah, I was just curious, how did you get to this point?
So I moved out to California about 15 years ago, and I saw a real way to use my skills. I was good with numbers, good with math. I loved helping people, but I also wanted to be my own boss, support my family, make sure I could invest in myself because I was always a guy who was like, work hard, work twice as much as everybody else. But what
Mm.
you realize after doing that for a decade is you just end up being tired You don't have any plans, you don't have any relationships, you don't have any goals. You've just literally worked 16 hours a day and slept 6 and did the process. What you have to do, or what I believe you should do, is design a life around what you want, build a life by design. And that involved finding a job that I could work where I could help people, and by helping people invest in themselves in their own homes, I would also make all the income required to support my family, to support my goals. So it's about being in an industry where everybody can win and you're
Gotcha.
not just working for a paycheck.
Right, right. And I think everyone can win. It's such a that in itself is just a powerful motivation, right? That you're helping people get achieve. And again, I talked earlier, not just for themselves, but their entire families that you're building, helping a generational wealth in this fashion,
Exactly.
right? And that's
I
that's
mean,
the big part.
you leave a family member, like say you're the first generation of homeowner. Maybe it's a little bit harder for you. You work a little bit more, you don't get to enjoy it nearly as much, but you leave one or two properties to your kids who leave it to their kids who they can make it 3, 4 properties without having to work nearly as hard. 5, 6. Within a few generations, your family has such a significant safety net financially that they're able to keep building it and work however they want, do whatever careers they find meaningful, not just have to work to get by, not just have to be paycheck to paycheck to survive. You're basically creating an indefinite like wealth building machine that will take care of every generation of your family after.
When you meet clients, David, that are sort of initially sort of getting into it, there's all I don't doubt that there's fears or concerns that you come across or have to deal with or contend with. What kind of things are people most concerned about when sort of new homeowners?
Generally, they're concerned about having been hurt before. There's some trauma there. Yeah.
Okay.
Either their families, their parents, their grandparents, someone lost a home during some sort of real estate cycle or
Hmm.
recession or period where people weren't being 100% honest with them. So
Mm.
they're a little skeptical on what you tell them, even if you back it with data, even if you
Right.
show them this and this, they're still a little skeptical, like it's too good to be true. And that's the biggest barrier. You have to overcome that initial distrust barrier. Because when you buy a home,
Yep.
it's not like investing in stocks where you pay a little bit of money up front. They give you one to one value of money to stock, and you just don't do anything. When you
Right.
buy a home, you invest 5 to 20%, 1 to 20%, depending on the loan type you use,
Hmm.
and they give you 5 times that amount of home. And
Yes.
then over the first few years, you might have to do some foundation maintenance. You might have to do some sewer maintenance. You might have to do some upgrades. But that money is actively being invested in the home. Your home is worth more every time you do one of those things. So the money
Yes.
isn't being spent, it's being invested. But people see that they buy a home and the initial transfer from being a renter to being a homeowner is more expensive, and you are actively investing in that home more than you're investing in your 401k or your stocks or you're traveling, you might
Right.
have to have a year or two where you don't do those things
Right.
to set this investment up for success. And people look at that and they're a little hesitant because they're it'll affect their quality of life short term. But what I show people is you can take a year, 2, 3 years now, you can live a little less comfortably, except still where you would like to be,
Yep.
and it will open up the doors for your last 50 years to be comfortable.
Right.
So you're
Right.
you're basically investing in 3 years to be comfortable for 50, as opposed to avoiding it for 10 years, and then having to invest in those 5 years, and then only being able to enjoy your life for these last 30. It's a cost benefit analysis, but you you have to get their minds away from what is this going to cost me and
Right.
what's it going to provide for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes it. I just see. I certainly see that as being a difficult shift for people sometimes, right? Because they're thinking in the here and the right now, right? And what you're encouraging them to do is think larger, longer, big picture, right? That they, life is a continuum, right, David? And so it's
Yeah.
not just right here and now. It's beyond that. But being able to, for people to recognize that when they're looking, what here's how much money I got, here's how much sense I have in my hand right now, and I need this, and you're telling me I gotta put how much of it towards a house, and it's I can see where it, for some, it can be a challenging or difficult sell.
And it's not unreasonable. You see going 3,000 a month on your rent to buying a place but having to pay 5,000. Well, within the first couple years, maybe it would have been more affordable to rent, but what you're not seeing is the amount of that 5,000 that goes into your equity. The
Right.
amount of money you get back from writing off the mortgage insurance on your taxes, the you're not seeing the fact that every year after year 6 or 7, renting anything that you purchase is going to be more expensive
Yes.
than what you're paying on a mortgage
Yeah.
forever. The prices are never going down again, not that far.
Right.
And so every year you get out past the initial year, it's actually reducing your cost of living long term because
Mhm.
once you do pay it off,
Yes.
you've eliminated in our areas 50 or 60% of your income is
Exactly.
going to housing suddenly gets freed up. Now you're sitting on equity that you can use for anything, investments, buying other properties,
Yep.
and you've freed up all of your active income so you can invest it in stocks, other places. And, eventually, if you ever stop working, the only real way to stop working is to one, automate your income. That's passive income. And two, lower your cost of living. So if you own
Mhm.
both your homes cash and you've got automated income coming in, it doesn't matter that the cost of living is going to double 2 times over the next 50 years.
Right.
You've already reduced your cost of living by 2 times earlier.
Right.
So it's one of the only ways you can protect yourself truly from inflation and make sure that at least you and yours are never going to be in a financial hardship situation.
And yeah, no, and David, everything that you said makes complete sense, and I believe I believe you, and I'm with you on that. And it's more just a matter of getting through to people's that initial sort of, oh my gosh, or I can't do this, or I can't afford it, or yeah, I hear you. And I would imagine, you can tell me, I imagine you have people who will agree with you and think that all the things that you're saying are correct, and still be like, yeah, but I can't.
Absolutely. It's about people are not long-term beings. Our biology was designed to be a very short-term short-term reward, short-term mindset because that's useful for survival.
Hmm.
What I'm talking about is a change in our financial and real estate education to start
Hmm.
being taught these things when you're younger and
Yes.
by people you trust. Because if your parents, we're in a world where if your parents didn't teach you, your school certainly didn't teach you,
Right.
and you become an adult who's never been taught the long term way to support yourself financially, and everybody's just trying their best. But
Yes. Yes.
information is the great equalizer. And when you can
Yes.
reach people, and instead of overwhelming them with a 30-year plan and 4 properties, we break it down into okay, our goal is to just get you one that you can conservatively afford. So
Hmm.
you're not going to be in
Yep.
danger of losing it.
Hmm.
And it's going to take us 1 to 3 years, depending on how much you make. So
Yes.
why don't we just start working on the smallest step possible? We need you to save this much per month. And
Hmm.
we're going to check in quarterly. So not every month, I'm not going to be hounding you, but we're going to
Right.
check in quarterly and adjust and have just a 30-minute conversation
Yep.
4 times a year.
So like it's
Basically,
like you're touching base or checking in, basically.
yeah, so if we're 2 years away, great. If we're 4 years away, great. You let me know if we're exceeding expectations. But all you need to think about is that you need a home to survive financially long term, especially in California, and that you need to save this much per month. It takes all of that overwhelm and says, like, at the very least, even if you never bought a home, saving this much money and applying it towards your future would be still be beneficial.
Yeah.
But you don't have to think about that whole 50, 60 year plan. You just have to work with professionals like, people work with a lawyer, like people work with a nutritionist, like people work with a fitness professional. You just have to trust long term that the conversations you're having with them
Yes.
and the steps you're taking are going to be beneficial.
Got you. No, that's it. The key to having somebody you trust is huge, and so I definitely hear that. I wonder for those who maybe come from like low income families, they will always so when you talk about the challenges of getting into the market.
Mm-hmm.
But my guess is, and you can please let me know. I love your insights, but for those in that situation kind of require a longer plan, so to speak, right? That really shows okay, yes, I want homeowner again homeowner I want to become a homeowner rather, but the planning timeline that I need to start so from the start to actually home, it's a lot longer, wouldn't it be?
Yes, it's not easy for the lowest income brackets. I mainly work in Los Angeles County and Orange
Hmm.
County.
Hmm.
They have a lot of down payment and grant assistance programs being given out by the city, the county, the lenders. So you can come anywhere between 0 to 5% down on a home
Right.
in with any one of these different programs. So although the price is more expensive, like if you're talking about buying a $700,000 home,
Yep.
if you only need to get 1%, if you only need to save 1 or 2%, that's 7 to 14,000, and that doesn't have to be. It could be a gift from somebody. It could be
Yes.
working an extra shift every week for 2, 3 years. That much isn't an insurmountable goal. These programs are going to give you 70,000, 100,000, twenty
Mhm.
five thousand in
Yep.
funds that you either don't pay back or you pay back upon the sale of your property, which
Right.
after you in 5 years, 10 years, when you sell the property and you've made several $100,000, it's easy for you to pay back what they've given you, and then you have enough funds left over to put into the next property.
Right.
Basically, you
Right.
could switch your property every decade and just keep getting larger or
Right.
more or better, building that wealth.
Right. Right.
But you're right, it does take longer. Those programs could take a year or two to qualify due to the amount of people that need to have it. So
Gotcha.
it's even more important that you connect with somebody and you start working with them a few years before and you say, hey,
Yep.
apply to this program. Even if
Yep.
you can't use it when you get qualified, it'll be much easier to reapply. They'll already have your information. You'll learn what you need to do now. We'll try to save what you need to save now. And then
Right.
in the future, when you're ready, we have all the information. You're not starting 4 years from now with the funds you need and then learning that it's now going to be another 2 years to qualify for that program that you need to buy a thing. Because in that amount of time, I'll be honest with you, home prices can go up at a more quickly than the money you can save.
Sure.
So it
Sure.
becomes, where do I spend that money now
Right.
to make it the best investment so that I can, within the next decade or two, I can get back into the city that I want to retire in, the city that I want to live out the rest of my life into. But it's a long-term plan
Yes.
either way.
Right. Right. It's very, very clear, David, as you're speaking that I was going to say knowledge is power, but I think real estate knowledge is power here and
Well,
understanding.
financial knowledge, any
Yeah.
basic education on wealth building
Yes.
is power.
Right.
And it's
Right.
something that hasn't been shared with a lot of people, especially in lower income brackets. And it's something that people historically haven't had finances are not the most comfortable topic to talk about around the dinner table or
Sure.
with your friends. It needs to be something that people become more comfortable sharing so that you can workshop it just like you would workshop any other issue.
Right. Yep. It's one of these things where you wonder why maybe our schooling it was not part of our schooling curriculum. And having people understand this at an early age to set
Well,
them up for life. And I'm sure you have a position on that, eh?
I just don't think our schools are designed to educate us about financial matters. I think our
Right,
schools are designed to educate us enough to get into the workforce.
right.
Think about it. You can get a credit card when you're 18, but you're really
Yep.
never financially responsible when you're 18.
No.
What's the
No.
most likely outcome if your parents aren't monitoring it for you and really helping you out with it? The most likely outcome is you have high credit usage, you miss a couple payments, your credit score plummets, and you have college debt too.
Right. Right.
And that means you need to work and you need to get out there and you need to have a job. You need to have two jobs. But they
Yes.
weren't, the school system wasn't designed to teach you how to be smart with your money. So maybe you get out of college without any debt and you can take a year or two figuring out whether you want to start your own business. Like, it just wants to create more people for the jobs that it needs. So
Yes.
although I love, higher education, it's not designed to create people with healthier lives. It's
Yep.
designed to create a workforce.
Yep.
And you have to just know the difference.
Yep. Yep. You use the word healthy, and actually the last point I wanted to raise with you. So it's a nice segue. So thank you for that, because I really wanted to talk about how, or have you talk about rather, how home ownership not only can lead to our healthier, sustainable lives, but even our overall wellness. Can you sort of touch on how significant that is in terms of the impact it can have on us?
I'd love to. I mean, if you take out the money, you take out the benefits, the wealth, you take out all of that.
Yep.
If you're renting, there's always going to be a chance that the owner can raise your rents next year. There's always going to be a chance that the owner can sell the property next year. There's always going to be a chance that the person who buys the property can evict you to live there because they're buying a home to live there. You cannot put anything on the walls without permission. Your security deposit is always on the line.
Yes.
When you buy a home and you live in your own home and you invest in your own home, there's a certain amount of comfort that allows you to have a positive mental and physical health. It allows you to use your space in the way that you need it. It allows you to de-stress in a space that if you never want to leave, you never have to leave. It allows you to truly nest and make that home your home. Whereas if you rent, I mean, although it can be a little bit more affordable at times, the most comfort you ever have is your landlord signing a lease with you, meaning you're going to be able to stay for another year.
Right. Right.
That's it. And, whether they are nice to you right now or not, it doesn't show you whether they're going to try to keep all of your deposit after you leave. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but
But there's
there
definitely some
isn't
truth to what
any
you're saying.
comfort in renting. When you
Yeah.
have a space that you own and it's
Yes.
your space,
Yes.
the mental health that can come from that space is invaluable without any of the other benefits of owning a home.
Mhm. Yep. No, I know all you're saying is absolutely correct, and why I thought it was important that you touch on that. I think there's sometimes we I don't know, might take it for granted, the mental part of that, of home ownership and what it can do for us, from just a liberation, a freedom sort of way of living. So I think that those are really key important points that you touched on. David, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate you, the insights that you've put forth, and the lens that you've put on home ownership. I certainly, again, the points around sort of generational wealth, I think can't be understated enough, and the difference that you're making not only for individuals now but for future generations. And so congratulations. I'm sure you've probably impacted many, 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 and you've seen the fruits of your labor over and over again, and it must be a rewarding thing. So thank you. This is really, really good conversation.
Thank you for having me. I just want to encourage people that whether you do something or not, nobody can trick you into signing a thing. You got, but what you can do is you can get out there and get information from the professionals that you want to leverage to improve your life, whether it's buying a house, getting back in shape, figuring out your mental health, like becoming more responsible with finances.
Yep.
There's always a person that you can get out there and consult with. And
Yes.
at the very least, you don't work with them, but you start your next conversation with a little bit more information. And when you do find somebody you trust, give them a chance. But learn, because even if you're overwhelmed, even if you're busy, even if there's things in your life that aren't working well right now, there's no replacement for having the information.
Gotcha. No, makes sense. For our listeners that want to connect with you or learn more about you, David, where can we send them?
So I have a website, www.dippongrealestate, Dippong real estate, just as it sounds,
Mm-hmm.
.com.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's got all my contact info. It's got messenger forms to send me, and it's where I connect with people who maybe don't want to buy real estate just yet, but
Okay.
want personal coaching, who
Gotcha.
want to work with somebody for a few years to become the type of person who's able to start down that long road. But it's
Gotcha.
just it's you can find everything you need there to reach out to me as a resource. And if I can't help you, I'll connect you to somebody who can.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I love it. I love it. David, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate this. And again, thanks for what you're doing and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on the Audacious Living podcast.
You got it, man. That's how we do it. How we do it. And again,
Ah,
you're helping people get to that audacious way of life, man. You are. You're a big part of that, David. I that's
life's
for sure.
long, man. You gotta like what you live. You gotta like how you live,
That's
and
it.
you gotta invest in it.
That's it. Love it. Back we are here on the podcast, and I want to thank David for spending the time. And when I think about a conversation, the key takeaway with him is the significance of early financial education and long-term planning. By investing in yourself and your future through real estate and personal development, you can pave the way for a secure and comfortable life that sets you and your family up for success. I certainly encourage you to connect with David on his website at DippongRealEstate.com to explore personalized coaching and real estate services tailored to your needs. Certainly, when you factor in the significance of building and maintaining long-term relationships and what that can do for you and how it can impact you in a positive way from a real estate planning perspective, it's a great idea. So certainly connect with David for his insights and how he can assist you. To our listeners, I say thank you for joining me on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you found value in our discussion with David, I'd encourage you to follow, like, and share so we can reach more listeners. And I encourage you to keep tuning in because we will have more empowering conversations to inspire you to live your most audacious life ever. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the